It's Tuesday, 19th of July, and it is an absolute bloody scorcher. Hottest day of the year, apparently, and it feels like it's really hot and sweaty, and you know, it's the sort of heat that I should be queuing up at a park in, queuing up for a ride at a Disney park in Florida, but it's not. I'm at work and then at home in England. But yeah, it's uncomfortably warm today. So windows are open, you can probably hear dogs barking outside, there'll probably be flies buzzing around the place. It's, yeah, summer's here. Thunderstorms tomorrow, cooling down at the weekend. This is pretty much our British summer, one day. May wasn't too bad for about a week. Anyway, crack on with a couple of whiskies. Should be fairly quick, because there's not really much I can talk about either of them. Both of these were provided, turned up yesterday, because I think I'd said when I did my last review that I hadn't got much bourbon left, and then all of a sudden this package turned up from a acquaintance, I suppose you call him, a guy called Chris Neville of the British Bourbon Society on Facebook. Fantastic bunch of people there. We did a little sample share. Andrew Watson, I'd had the Willet the other night, and Chris's package, as it were, turned up in the post yesterday, which had a couple of other drams in, so that keeps my American going for another couple of samples at least. So the first one, we actually had a bit of a conversation on Messenger about what he got available and what he'd be willing to send and everything like that, and I think he'd had a couple of drinks. It was like about midnight on a Saturday night, this Saturday maybe, possibly. And he was like, oh, I've got this, I'll send you this. Oh, I've got George T. Stagg, I'll send you that. I don't want George T. Stagg. Oh, I'll send you this Elijah Craig, and I'll send you that really old one. And I was like, honestly, fantastic, really, really kind of you to send it, but I'm doing one per distillery or brand, and I've done them. So as much as I would love the Elijah Craig 18, as much as I would love the George T. Stagg, as much as I would love God knows what else he was offering me, the rules of the challenge that I've set myself are that it's one from everyone, and I've had a representation of those ones, and it would just be a waste you sending them. I wouldn't, even if I were going to drink them, it wouldn't be till next January, so it would just be a waste of time. Right, well, you know, I've got some crappy supermarket whiskey. Brilliant, yes, that's what I want. I want that sort of stuff. So I have a sample of something called Western Gold. This is a Western Gold 6-year-old, but there is a Western Gold unaged version, and this is from Lidl. So I don't think I've ever been in a Lidl. Maybe I have many moons ago, but it's not somewhere that I shop, and it doesn't have a particularly fantastic reputation, although Lidl do seem to be going up in the world in terms of popularity, particularly in the UK. And they've got a pretty decent reputation. It's just there's not one near us, and I've never had the inclination to go in. But Western Gold is something that they sell. So they have a white label which looks like this, and it's quite similar to Jim Beam. And I've not got much information about this on the net, but a few people that have reviewed it have said, look, the label looks very much like Jim Beam. It tastes quite a bit like Jim Beam as well. It probably is Jim Beam. However, a couple of other places, and having had a chat with Chris, it's probably more likely it's from Heaven Hill, simply because Heaven Hill seems to be the go-to supplier for own brand labels, and a lot of these brands that you'll find that aren't MGP and don't have their own distillery, more often than not, are Heaven Hill. So we'll hazard a guess that it's probably Heaven Hill, more likely that than Jim Beam, because Jim Beam are going to sell enough of their own stock. They don't need to sell it to other distributors. So that was the white label, which was the unaged version. This is what the 6-year-old looks like. So this is their super premium version. So this is about 15 quid a bottle, he was saying. I think it's cheaper in Europe. Lidl quite big across mainland Europe, and I have read in a couple of places, like in Germany, this was something like 8-9 euros, which the way the pound is at the moment after Brexit is about 8-9 quid, and could probably be even cheaper the way that our pound is collapsing. So it's not an expensive bourbon. Chris has said that he's not actually tried it neat, he's only ever drunk it with cola, so this will be an education for you, Chris, because I am doing it neat. No ice, no cola, nothing. Every whiskey has to be on its own, ideally without water first. Now it's 40%, so I'm not going to add any water in anyway, because if it needs water to it, then they buggered it up anyway. Because if I add water to it, it's not then whiskey that I'm drinking. So let's see. Now this does actually, no, sorry, that's the next one. I tell a lie. It doesn't say anything about charcoal filtration, but it does say on the label, on the front label, Kentucky's finest bourbon whiskey. Bold claim. We'll see. The nose is not Kentucky's finest bourbon whiskey. However, I've had a number of American whiskies where the nose has been ropey, rough, a bit harsh, and on the palate it's been completely different. So, but this is quite spirity, and it's quite like white spirit. It's very neutral grain spirit. It's not quite as bad as that Imperial, but it's got that sharpness and that thin, it's like a turpentine thinness to it. And there's not a lot else on the nose. There's very little fruit, if any. What there is probably like white grapes rather than classic dark fruit characters that I would expect from a bourbon. It's thin, it's harsh, it's kind of stripping the back of my nose. 6 years old though. God knows what the unaged white one's like. It's, yeah, it really kind of makes your eyes water a bit. It's really sharp, but there's not a lot of depth to it. Okay, it's not Kentucky's finest bourbon whiskey. It doesn't even taste like Kentucky bourbon whiskey. There's nothing on it at all. It tastes like a brown spirit. It doesn't even taste of whiskey. It just tastes like brown alcohol. It's not harsh. It doesn't hit the back of your throat. It's nowhere near as spirity on the palate as it is on the nose, because it's got nothing in it. There's 40% alcohol and some food colouring. It is literally like they've just made that. It's like they've got some neutral alcohol, added water to it, and then put colouring in it to make it look like whiskey. I can't pick up anything on that at all. Even if you were mixing it with Coke, you'd get a bit of a burn of an alcohol and that's it. You wouldn't get any flavour from it. It would taste like Coke with pure alcohol, a drop of pure alcohol added to it. There's nothing in there whatsoever. Which isn't a bad whiskey. It's not as bad as Hayes Parker, or the Imperial, or some of the other poor whiskies that I've had, where there is flavour there, but it's a really unpleasant flavour. It's really unbalanced. It's really kind of sharp or petrol-y or spirity or anything like that. This isn't even offensive like that. There is nothing to be offended by because there's nothing in it. Nothing. Absolutely no flavour whatsoever. It's weird to say that it's got no flavour because I'm trying to find something. I don't know, a raisin maybe? There's just nothing, there's nothing in it. And it's not like it's offensive like some, not offensive, but some of the really boring whiskies I've had. What was the one I compared to James Milner? Ballantyne's. Had flavour, it was just a bit dull, it was a bit boring. It was alright, but it was just boring, but there was flavour in it. There's not flavour in it, it's not even boring for that. It's just water. It really is. It's not even a pretense at whiskey because it doesn't taste like whiskey. It doesn't really taste like anything at all. There's a bit of wood. Yeah, I've got some wood. Don't know what type of wood, just wood. It's not even it's not a bad whiskey. 15 quid seems a bit steep though. Yeah, 15 quid's quite a lot. For Lidl, that seems quite steep. But I don't think I've yet had a whiskey during this challenge, and I'm nearly halfway, I'm very, very nearly to halfway, that has had so little flavour and so little character, nothing in it whatsoever. There's more on the nose than there is on the palate. At least the nose kind of gave you a kick at the back of your nostrils and burnt some of the hairs off. It doesn't even do that at the back of your throat. It's just there and gone. What weird whiskey. Weird. If that was the white label, I wouldn't be surprised. If that was the white label, unaged, 8-9 quid, wouldn't be surprised by that at all. But this is theoretically their premium version. This is 15 quid a bottle. This is a 6-year-old. So it says on the label. So what the hell's the white label like? Either the white label's got all the flavour, or it really is like water. Because the raisin that the single raisin that I can taste in that isn't even in that unaged version. Interesting, Chris. I would carry on drinking it with Coke, mate, because then at least you're going to taste something while you're drinking it. That's all I've got to say on that. Yeah, that was interesting. I'm not sure I'm going to pick up a bottle of that. Right, quick rinse out, and I'll get on the next one, which I'm hoping is going to be a lot better. I'll see you at the next one. Cheers.